Welcome to the Lovecars on the Grid podcast, your global motorsport roundup with me, Tiffany Dell, and Paul Woodman.
Welcome to Lovecars on the Grid, your global motorsport podcast roundup, where we look back on a weekend where McLaren paints Abu Dhabi papaya. Brazil beat France in Formula 2 in the shootout there. Formula E sparks back into action in Sao Paulo, and there's yet more controversy at the FIA. But let's kick off with congratulating McLaren on a Constructors' Championship, first time since 1998.
Yes, it's what Mika Hakkinen was world champion, and David Coulthard was a very good backup man, scoring points for the team. Make note, Red Bull. But it was wonderful. I mean, McLaren have been off the ballpark for years, well, since then pretty much, haven't they? So it's a fantastic return to glory days. They were fourth last year, so they've always been sort of in the top 4 or 5. But I think it's just great. I love all the characters. I love obviously Lando and the management and everything. The whole team.
Zach,
it's just a great
Zach Brown's very
Zach Brown. Yeah, he's always up there with a good opinion, an honest opinion. And he was a racing driver himself. He was sleeping on someone's couch trying to make a Formula Ford career work in Britain.
I've got to say, I am very impressed with that man. He comes across incredibly well. Yeah. Very articulate and seems like he's got time for everyone. I bumped into him very briefly at Monte Carlo at Formula E, but I think he's he's clearly done a phenomenal job. Oscar's not too sharp on his personality, but he's got this little subtle little cheeky chappy personality.
Little chipping away, but
very dry.
It's such a great sort for the brand, McLaren, because it's one of the iconic names. When we go back in history, we don't have Lotus anymore. We don't have a lot of famous British car names. And of course, I've got a special link with McLaren because I was Bruce McLaren's postman.
What?
When I was 16, back in those days, they would trust school sixth formers to be assistant postpersons. So the Weybridge post office, I applied for the job. It was a 5-day job or 6-day job, just in the last few days before Christmas with all the post the cards. And so I got the job and reported to Weybridge post office, got my bicycle, and had to do sorting in the sorting boxes. Discovered that on the round that I'd been allocated was no other than B. McLaren. And I knew roughly where he lived anyway, because I'm a huge motorsport fan. I knew he lived in Oatlands Village near the church, St Mary's Church, where I was christened. More stories of Tiffany Dell's history. Anyway, every time I delivered to Bruce's address, I kept on sort of peering. He had quite a glass front door, which was quite popular in those days. So you can see right through into the hall and almost into the lounge. And then this one wonderful day, I had a recorded delivery for Bruce McLaren. So I cycled up the hill from Weybridge, out of puff as always, and arrived at his door, looked through, and I saw he won the Can-Am Championship that year, as they did many years. There's a famous Can-Am trophy, which was like a chrome cylinder, but it was magnetic, so it was sort of floated on wire that held it up. And I just remember looking through and seeing the trophy on his desk. That was my first sort of piece of craze fan excitement, and then pressed the doorbell, expecting Mrs. McLaren to turn up. And there he rolled into view and came to the door. And, yeah, mate, how are you doing? Well, my accent's terrible. So I'm then shaking, saying, could you sign this, Mr. McLaren? Because fans in those days, we were respectful, unlike modern day fans that just say, oh, hello. Hello,
good selfie, mate.
Hello, Jezza. Hello, Jezza. Give me a picture with you, Jezza. And so he duly signed the recorded delivery. And I never got him to sign anything but me. Every time I look back now, I was just, okay, thank you, Mr. McLaren. So it's a lovely little moment. And so,
lovely story. So McLaren, Bruce McLaren is a Kiwi, New Zealander.
Yep.
I don't say Kiwis anymore. My goodness, the world's gone
don't we say Kiwis?
Crazy,
Has that been banned?
I think so. I don't know. I hope not. I don't think a single person in the whole of New Zealand be offended with that. But somebody said on Twitter not so long ago, why do they play the Union, the national anthem?
Well, it was the driver. Liam Lawson said it. It was Liam Lawson.
The constructors for McLaren. Oh, Liam Lawson said it, did he?
Yeah, it was Liam Lawson on Twitter that said it, that kicked it off. Why don't we have the Kiwi anthem? And someone actually just today, when I repeated it before the Grand Prix, has pointed out that apparently it's registered as British. But I mean, loads of things that are registered as British are British. We know that. So I actually tweeted before the race. I said, if it goes perfectly, let's do what Liam said. Let's have a New Zealand anthem and
I didn't see that.
So
there you go.
I don't think it happened. I suppose they just play the British anthem. If a British driver wins, you only get one anthem, don't you? If it's the same company, same country. I never really thought about that.
I thought you get two, actually. You do get two normally. I don't know if it's the same.
You
one,
get the British twice.
I don't know. Somebody let us know below in the comments, please. But it was a weekend. It was an incredible weekend, really. I enjoyed it. It was. Who did you want to win out of Ferrari and McLaren?
Well, McLaren, obviously. I mean, the British team.
No, it's not obvious. Why is it
I know,
obvious?
because we all love Ferrari as well. And
there's something about Ferrari, Tiff.
I just thought it was a
motor racing.
Well, yes, I agree. So Ferrari would be lovely, but just on this occasion, I think they haven't won it for a while, and they've battled so hard. But there's a lot of celebration. Max is going to be a dad. That was another bit of lovely news the weekend. Kelly Piquet's pregnant with his first child, which is lovely. And
talk about cashing in, though. Bloody hell, they're already announced their clothing line for the child. Have you seen that?
Baby clothing. But with some Piquet blood and some Verstappen blood, there's a lot of talent in there. And also a lot of, they're both quite spiky, controversial characters. Nelson, of course, in big trouble for using racist language and getting into hot water. So congratulations to Max and Kelly. It was also a lovely weekend for Lewis Hamilton. We'll come to the race later, but I think everyone was rooting to overtake. God, get George. And it was just nice for him to leave. Well, nice for the British fans, to be honest. I'm not trying to be anti-Dutch Red Bull's British, but for them to leave Abu Dhabi with smiles on their faces. It's been a bit of a while.
Red Bull's not British. When Red Bull win a race,
they're Austrian.
The constructors,
that's true.
They play the Austrian national anthem, and they play the German national anthem when it's Mercedes, even though they've all got HQs in Great Britain.
In Britain. So we'll forget, but it was nice that the British fans had a British win, and Lewis Hamilton had a nice way to say goodbye to Mercedes. So it was all good stuff. But then we come back to the FIA. Well, the gossip of the week before, we got the George and Max handbag story to come to. But the FIA, really, it just beggars belief. What is going on? Because we've got another departure early next week.
Hang on, PC police here. I don't think you're allowed to say handbags anymore either, by the way.
I'm sure you are. Men can have handbags now. I used to have a handbag. Okay. I'll own up I had a handbag.
No, you had a man bag.
Well, yes, all right. But you can't call man bags. They're handbags. We had another departure in the FIA. A former rally man, Andrew Wheatley, was shown the exits from his job as road sport director. They never say why. Do these people always leave? They probably sign disclosure clauses or something. Anyway, he was out the door. So another one leaving without any explanation. But more concerning is this new flipping-eyed plan that he's putting to the council this week.
What is all that about? It's like Sepp Blatter with the Football Association.
Yeah. He wants a new rule that only the auditing and the ethics committee, he's going to restrict the auditing and ethics committee can no longer challenge the president on anything.
Unbelievable.
And only so it's just him, the president. It's not been voted on yet, but it's only the president, Ben Sulayem, and the president of the Senate, which is the leader of the Spanish motorsport, Carmelo Sanz de Barros. They're the only two that can be an inquest into if they don't like it. The audits don't like it, so it's him and his mate voting. You can't have a majority of two, and if one of them's the president, it's pretty hard that anything will get past him. And the big thing coming up, one of the things that is exposed, is the fact that he's got this. He gave himself a $1.5 million development fund, which he alone can hand out to any the members, any of the members of the FIA.
And guess what?
The members
guess who votes for him? Exactly.
So he's got a slush fund. I know. He has a slush fund to distribute to members who come whenever it is, the end of next year, it's coming up sometime next year, will be voting for the next president. I couldn't believe it. There are 243 members that have a vote on this flipping committee from 147 different countries. Some countries have got multiple votes. And these are members that probably run an auto test club in Hong Kong or something, or I did a Singapore auto test, a rallycross. So all these tiny clubs from all the countries all over the world who maybe don't have any big knowledge of motorsport, with due respect, or certainly not in organising any motorsport or running of the rules and regulations. It's not just, say, members that have a Grand Prix team or members that are involved in the upper echelons of world motorsport.
Well, with the greatest respect, there are teams in Africa and all sorts of places, and there are not many motor circuits in Africa. So it's but that's just one example of many. It's just
we have David Richards, a very level-headed man, involved in motorsport for many years. He's our president and or chief CEO or whatever letters it is now. So hopefully he'll be one of the campaigners to try and hold Mr. Ben Sulayem back. But it is getting a bit worrying that our sport is being run by a dictatorship almost. Can I say that? But he gets sued for that.
You probably can't say that either, to be honest.
I said almost.
It's almost Christmas, so it doesn't matter.
But in other news, it was a George versus Max handbags that was a carry-on from Qatar, wasn't it? When they had a meeting, and of course George got Max's lap time disallowed, didn't he, for doing something in qualifying. And then Max had a go at George, and since then George came back saying he's going to put me in the wall. I was worried at Qatar that he said he was going to put me in the wall, and it hasn't got any better. I think they had the drivers' dinner, didn't they? That Valtteri paid for, and they managed to get seated.
Lewis arranged it. Lewis arranged. He started this trend, and but Valtteri insisted on paying about £5,000 apparently.
Anyway, I'm more than happy. £5,000, that's £5 to a Grand Prix driver, isn't it? £5,000 to us.
Less.
Yeah, it's less like 5 pence.
Yeah.
There were only 2 teams missing, I noticed. I think I noticed the Haas boys weren't there, and maybe the Alpine boys weren't there. But anyway, wonderful to get them all together. They should have an annual meeting. It's like
I'm sure I saw Gadley there. I'm sure I did.
In the golf, the green jacket golf. Which one is that? The green jacket, the famous green jacket.
Masters.
The Masters.
Augusta.
They always have a previous champion's dinner the night before, and the most recent champion picks the menu and
exactly. So what did Nick Faldo choose?
I don't know. I can't
fish
remember.
And chips. Famously fish and chips. Yeah, he did. Yeah. And then Tiger Woods chose burger and chips.
Oh,
your phone. My phone just went off.
Stop that. No, cool.
Now your phone's going off.
So yes, it's nice though. I think that should be an annual thing. That's a good idea. Get them together, make them look like human beings having a party. But I do like Max versus George. It's good for next year. We like a bit of animosity, a bit of aggro.
It would all calm down by then. And then when Max becomes a father, he'll be a completely different person. He'll be super chilled then.
You think
either that or he'll be very angry. Look, Max.
I like his quote today because he's got 9 points now. So going into next year, he only needs 3 more points. He's on a ban for a race. So he was saying, my answer phone's going off now. Oh gosh, how do I stop that?
We can't hear.
So he's saying maybe that would coincide with the birth of the child, so he could have some maternity leave if he gets banned. I mean, he does joke about these things, Max. Yeah, that'll suit when I have the baby.
Well, he doesn't do himself any favours. Like, we'll come on to the race, but when he got his penalty and he's calling people idiots. No, Max, you messed up. You made a mistake, and you've got to be penalised. You've ruined somebody else's race.
Why didn't they give us 20 seconds?
Oh, it's silly. That's where he doesn't. I really have warmed to Max this year. You know that. And anyone listens to this podcast, and he says silly things like that, and he just doesn't need to.
Well, we'll talk about
world champion.
Turn 1 now. We'll go to the qualifying in a minute. We'll talk about turn 1 because Martin Brundle pointed out that there was a professional driver, not involved in the champion. The only championship to be decided was the constructors, which Max and Red Bull weren't involved in. And for a professional driver to make a risky move on a car that was very much a part,
he doesn't care.
No, I know, but you have to
care.
He
only cares about himself. You said this before on this podcast, and what Senna said is red rag to a bull for these young drivers. If you don't take a gap, you're not a racing driver. But that's rubbish. You have to bide your time. And when you're in a race, I was in that Ford KA race a couple of years ago, and there's a safety lap, and I was right to the front, and I didn't want to mix with the leaders of this race for 8 hours, and then I just get in the way and ruin somebody's race. You just don't do it. Professional courtesy.
I know. And then straight away after the incident, it was on the radio. I was fully alongside. He said immediately on the radio, No, Max, you cocked up, Max. Just admit it, you cocked up. Well, I think he has. He's apologised. If it had affected the championship, it would have been a very sour note.
Imagine
indeed.
that. Imagine if Ferrari went on to win the championship after that.
Yeah. Anyway,
He wouldn't be on Zach Brown's Christmas list. Qualifying.
Lewis out, Q1. Unbelievable.
Yeah, because of the most bizarre situation for anyone that didn't see it.
Hulkenberg tried to get out of the way, knocked a marker cone off an apex into his path, and he got under the car. And he'd been third fastest in FP3. He was quick. He was ahead of Russell all weekend. George never got anywhere near him. So Lewis was definitely the fastest Mercedes. Yeah. I don't know why he loves it when he goes to the door. So he was hindered on the way out, his warm-up. Because again, we had this fast school situation where they're all crawling into the tunnel.
They're told not to do it and they still do it. How do they get away with it?
But there's no rule.
Penalties.
But there isn't a penalty for that. They can't seem to find a rule. But I've come up with a rule. Right, this is it. As soon as you leave the garage, you go up to pit lane speed limiter. Brrr. And you have to stay on pit lane speed limiter until you exit the pit lane, where there'll be a timing beam. And then you must start your qualifying lap. They already have that. They have some sort of minimum time, don't they, for completing the lap. But you must start your racing lap at so many minutes and seconds afterwards. That's so simple. You just leave your pit box. You have to accelerate straight to your pit limiter speed and stay there.
It doesn't work, does it? Because
why doesn't that
when they
work?
queue up, Max Verstappen likes to go out first. So he goes out often a minute before anybody else to be the front car, parked at the front. So as soon as he goes out of his garage, he's falling up to low.
Ban parking in the pit lane. I see what you mean then. Oh, yeah, because before the light goes red, they park up, don't they? And that creates the queue. Oh, damn, that's ruined my rules. No, you can't leave your pits until the lights are on.
But then that penalises, like next year when McLaren are the constructors champions, they'll be in garages 1 and 2, so they're last out. So if they want to get out, they'll be literally last out of the whole grid. But it's a nice idea. They have to do something.
Change it round then. That would be good. Why do they always want the first pit box?
I don't know. I think that's not the best thing.
In NASCAR, pole position every race.
Yeah,
the garage, they get changed around in the race because the pole man gets garage 1 because he's got a straight acceleration way back onto the track. So whatever the pros and cons, I don't care. Just move it around. So the in constructors order, that's your garage positions 1 to 20, 22 in a couple of years' time. And then if you've earned the position to be first out onto the track. We've sorted it between us. So you can't leave a garage until the light goes green, and then you have to go straight to pit limiter speed until you're on the track.
So let's go back to qualifying.
So Lewis went out.
And obviously Perez must have been out in...
we didn't know. Perez got through again. Unbelievable what was going on. Also out with the 2 Williamses, not having a good weekend. Zhao in his last race with Sauber. And Jack Doohan was last. I don't know. I'm a big fan of Jack's, but whether putting him out, because he didn't do any better for the team than Esteban Ocon did. So they rather insulted Ocon by suddenly taking him out.
No, I disagree.
For one race.
Exactly. Give him the experience that he needs, and that he's going to take that into next year then. So
one race.
It looked the right thing to do.
He finished last.
The right thing to do.
He started last and finished last. Has that helped him?
No, it did help him because he's around the garage, around the drivers. They know who he is.
They should have put Ocon in.
He hasn't.
So Q2. Perez got through Q2.
I know
that. He made it 10th fastest in Q2, and almost sort of ironically, he was 0.04 of a second faster than Yuki. So he beat Yuki out of Q3 by 0.04 of a second. But Yuki did beat Liam Lawson, so he's probably happy with that. Then the big thing about Q2 was Leclerc going out. So Leclerc did track limits, which brings us to track limits again. Turn 1 is the obvious one. Perez nearly got pinged. We did get pinged, and then they appealed, and all the slow motion cameras.
That was close. That was very close.
But Austria brought in the gravel trench, whatever we want to call it, and turn 1 is a perfect gravel trench corner,
isn't it? Yeah.
And if you're the money they've got in Abu Dhabi and Saudi and the whole circuit, I mean, you could dig a trench a week ago and fill it in tomorrow if you wanted to. But also, that it's so obvious. If your wheel's in the gravel, you know everyone knows there's a puff of dust, and don't make it exactly the width of the car. make it so you've got a whole wheel's got to be inside the white line as the right-hand wheel goes in your little gravel pit. I don't know. They come up with good ideas and then they don't sort of follow them through where they really need it. So there was track limits everywhere. So so that put Leclerc already at 10. He had a 10-place flipping penalty anyway. Fastest in Q1. So he hoped he might be 10th on the grid, but he ended up, it would have been a back, but other people had penalty. He ended up with 17th, I think, didn't he, anyway? So that was all the drama of Q2. And then the McLarens came strong. They've been looking strong all weekend. And maybe a first and second on the grid. Science showed that Ferrari was still up for it. It should have been a Ferrari, second row, the two of them, really. Or maybe even Leclerc could have split the McLarens if he hadn't done track limits. And then we had this wonderful Nico Hulkenberg in his last race for Haas, qualifying fourth. And then the folk is phoning me. And then qualifies for, he gets pinged for overtaking in the tunnel. I don't know whether he did it on the way out of the tunnel or whether he did because it's too narrow in the tunnel. I'm not quite sure where he overtook. I think it's maybe coming out. I don't know. Anyway, he got
what
pinged.
Pits are that? Where we were a couple of weeks ago, they're different pits, are they?
Yeah, different pits. Yeah, completely. Yeah, different place.
So they've been the F2 pits where we were, I guess.
Yeah. So, so he gets dropped 3 places, which puts Max up onto the second row, which then had an ongoing effect. So Max should be on the third row, yet again fighting his Red Bull, not having a good time with it. And Perez, he managed 10th out of the 10 in Q3. At least he did that. But he was only 0.3 slower than Max Verstappen. Sign him up. I mean, young Mexican, only 0.3. He was 0.9 slower.
Let's come on to the race. Before you get your checkbook out for Certain Checo, let's come on to the race.
Just say George. Just notice George. George, he was 7th on the grid behind Gasly. He was never on Lewis's pace all weekend, George. George, funny. They're funny, these cars. Sorry, you were saying before the race what?
Before you get your checkbook out for Checo, let's see where he finished the race, shall we?
Oh, gosh. I've written the notes of the 5 drivers that are leaving. I'm going to call it 5. Who knows? Perez went out on lap 1, didn't he? Apparently, he already had a problem, he said, with his gear change. Something was wrong. But as he went into the chicane, the horrendous chicane, turn 6, he braked early. People were going down the outside of him, down the inside of him, because he was sort of like hesitant. And then I think someone was on the outside of Perez, and anyway, Bottas was on the inside, and then they touched. Bottas clouts him and spins him round, and that's it. Didn't even finish 1 lap of the race. Colapinto, the other person looking for a job, he was hit by Oscar Piastri. Piastri on his recovery managed to just so close, didn't he? Trying to get in the slipstream, punctured his tyre, and then he got retired as well to the garage. So Colapinto had a miserable end. Bottas later on, qualified.
It just didn't work for Colapinto, didn't it? After the first couple of races, he looked like he was on fire. I think, wow, where's this guy been? And nothing's worked for him. He's had a bit of bad luck.
Yeah.
And it cost Williams a few quid with repairs as well.
Yeah, and Valtteri qualified, 9th, didn't he, I think, or somewhere.
Thought Valtteri was going to be on it. He looked like he was going to be on it his last race.
And then he torpedoes K-Mag. So K-Mag was having quite a good race. But Valtteri completely lost his braking and punting K-Mag out of the race. So that was him finished. And then Bottas drove around and finished somewhere. No, Bottas was out. K-Mag finished 16th and last, having been punted. The only person that actually finished with a smile was probably Zhao, who qualified at 17th or something and finished 13th. So they had all the people departing Formula One had a pretty miserable weekend. Out front, there wasn't really much of a race in a way. There was a lot of tension, obviously, going on. The fantastic, the 2 fightbacks of Leclerc and Hamilton were really the sort of feature to added enjoyment to the race. But it was just sort of Lando, Carlos shadowing each other. There's always lots of overtaking when the first lot pit, aren't they? And they all come out in the traffic. Then you get lots of overtaking to watch on the telly, but it's all overtaking that's not really relevant to the actual running order because it's just people stopping.
Difference between net and gross. I did think later on that Bono played a masterclass when there's debris on the track and thought there was going to be a safety car, a virtual safety car, after what happened the week before, of course, with the wing mirror. But there wasn't, because if that was the case, Lewis probably would have got a podium. as it happened, he got fourth place. Like you said, a phenomenal overtake around the outside of George Russell, just as Lando Norris was going over the finish line. So all the fireworks were coming up. I saw it from an angle from a fan in the stand, and Lewis is going around the outside, fireworks lighting up Abu Dhabi. It was quite spectacular.
Yeah, Gasly, good seventh. Alpine keeping the sixth in the manufacturers, saving £10 million or whatever, or getting £12 million more. Hulkenberg a good eighth, but they couldn't overtake Alpine. So yeah, it was an entertaining race, and it was just a nice, happy day, really. Happy day with a bit of controversy, a bit of Max. Take the mickey out of Max time. We always love a bit of that. Sorry, Yari. So that was about it, really. Any other points of the Grand Prix you noted of excitement?
No, it's good. Like I said, I'll go back to what I said right at the very beginning. Zach Brown, I thought he's such a lovely guy. I like that. It was a good, feel-good race, wasn't it, for everybody?
Yeah,
I think Ferrari already realised they weren't going to win the constructors, so they sort of conceded. And it was just a very good feel-good feeling before and after with the whole thing. So yeah, well done, Formula One. Well, amazing season. I cannot wait until next year, because if it goes like this,
promises,
it really any one of you has got to say McLaren on certainly
what
the favourites. But
what I like with these cars that seem very tricky is that no team seems to be able to consistently be quick on every circuit. It's like this is a McLaren circuit, this is a Ferrari circuit, this is a Red Bull circuit. And so because they each have their own best circuits, we should get, different winners depending on the circuit. At the moment, they're all saying the McLaren's the best car, but it had an off weekend a few weekends ago. It hasn't always been the best. So it's fascinating looking ahead.
It is going to be fascinating. Okay, let's talk about different winners, because in Formula 2 there were 18 different winners this whole season.
No,
18.
No, you're going to upset me.
No, because it's a sprint race is still classed as a win.
No.
I agree with you that it's not a typical. It's not a win.
Different feature races were winners. Were that? That's what we need.
Anyway, I don't know that.
Let's just go.
There were a lot of different winners. It was, but there were only two people. There were only two people in the championship for the.
There was a different winner. There was another different winner, a proper winner this weekend, because the Paraguayan Joshua Dirksen won the feature race. Yeah, and it's funny in Formula One, but this building up. So
Formula 2,
he would in Freca, which he did before 2 years. He was nowhere. I've written it down. I can't quite read it. He was like 10th and 4th, 19th. He was nowhere in Freca, and he sort of come to Formula 2. And he kept on mid-season, started to show some real good speed and battling hard. So someone that had a zero success in his younger years suddenly won a Formula 2 race, and all good to him. Gabriel, unfortunately, this fantastic shootout for the final Formula 2 championship, head-to-head.
Exactly. So it went into the weekend. They were half a point apart. And then the sprint race, it took it to about 4 points, I think, or 4.5 points. And then, come on then, now that we set the bit of the scene, because it was just the biggest anticlimax in the main race you've ever seen in your life.
But the other thing, this is what disappoints me about the modern fan base for a Grand Prix, that depresses me, because that Formula 2 race, the deciding, crucial, there must have been 300 people in the grandstands. I mean, it's such a shame.
There was more than that.
It
was
1,000 then. But I mean, the fans come for the Grand Prix. They come for the free lunch, the champagne. They go to the pop concerts, the rock concerts. They go buying more hats. And the Formula F1 Academy. It wasn't that late. I broke the times down. So the Formula 2 race started at 1:25 p.m. It's not exactly, crack of dawn to go and watch the Formula 2 race. And yet the sort of people that go there aren't bothered to watch it. The Formula 1 Academy. And it makes me laugh a bit, but it's Formula 4. It's not just because it's the ladies' one, but it's whoever starts Formula 4s or whoever's the first race out, Formula 3 even. And the girls were out at 11:15 a.m. And there were two people in the grandstand. I saw a shot when they went off the grid.
Yeah.
And it's always a bit, because they always love, I know it's not just Formula One Academy or the ladies, even Formula 3, the PR for the thing, well, in front of 140,000 people, in front of a packed Abu Dhabi or Silverstone, every race they go to, they think, well, they pretend they're performing in front of 100,000 people. But I don't know what we do. We can't force people to go and watch. When I did corporate entertainment, I was down at Monaco. I used to, guests used to come to the harbour outside the harbour, where they could walk to their grandstand seats. They'd come for their champagne and free canapes at 9 a.m., brought in early by Motor Passion, the company that take them to the circuit, and we plied them with champagne. I said, okay, Formula 3 races start in 10 minutes. Your seat is just there. I'll have some more champagne, Tiff, right here. And then the Formula 2 race is coming on an hour later. The Formula 2 race is about to start. And it's just, I like to throw them out. I get angry with them. When I'm at Silverstone, the little corporate box at the Brooklyn Suites just before Brooklyn's Corner, I pushed them out. I won't let them stay in the corporate hospitality. It's only small, about 60 people. Get out, watch the Formula 2 race. Anyway, Bortoletto finished second. Azat Hadjar stalled at the start. Hadjar, of course, he was in FP1 with the Red Bull, which maybe wasn't a good idea when you're trying to win a Formula 2 championship. And he was up to his shouting that you point out. And I was shouting.
There's a caveat there. There's a caveat because I've moaned about this all year about his shouting.
Yeah.
And yet his radio, when he stalled on the line, he was the calmest person I've ever heard in my life. So he's just lost the championship, and he just said, "Guys, I need some sort of explanation here, please." As calm as that. I was like, "Yes, here comes his radio. It's going to be beep, 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 beep."
But he couldn't blame anyone. He couldn't blame anyone. But in FP1, and he's almost in a dress rehearsal for an RB Raging Bulls, whatever they're going to call them, seat. And someone held him up. Oh man, he's held me up. Wow. And this is talking to Horner and the Red Bull team. And it's sort of, you're out in Max Verstappen's car. We want you to test the tires. We want you to this sort of lap. We can see when you get held up. But it would almost lose him the job for me if someone at rookie
100%.
level.
I've said
rookie level, yeah. But when he's in the Formula 2 car, I can understand maybe. But when he's in the Red Bull, I say, someone calm him down. Every time he was held up, he's straight away on the radio. I've been held up.
I said that to Freddie Slater, Fast Freddie Slater, Formula 4 fame.
Yeah.
I said, if because if you're 50-50 with somebody else, there's two amazing drivers. You're both incredible, but one of you's got such a great temperament and radio manner, and the other one is shouting, screaming. Who are they going to go for?
Yeah.
Because you just tick so many boxes for the crew, for the team, for the sponsors, for everybody. I probably went in one ear and out the other. Actually, with Freddie, I don't think it did. He's a very bright young lad. I bet he picked up on that.
Anyway, it was half a second slower than Perez, so that didn't help either. But I was held up on my best lap. I was held up. Anyway, I'm sure the data will show. The engineers have got the data. They can see, if you're doing a good lap. You don't have to do a whole 100% of a good lap because we've got the data. We can match against Perez's. We'll see where you're quick, where you're slow. Anyway. Ollie Behrman had his last Formula 2 race. He's pretty delighted to get out of the Formula 2. Antonelli went sick for the weekend. I know that he couldn't face another weekend driving a Formula 2 car. But Ollie was, 13th on the grid and finished 5th. And the Prema car is almost getting on the pace. But to have a whole season, we're a team of the record of Prema. Prema is where you go to number one in Formula 3 and Formula 4 and Formula 2. For that team to be unable to get their superstar drivers on the pace, absolutely, it's staggering to me that everyone's got the same cars and Prema cannot find the key of making them fire up. It's bizarre, it really is.
It is, isn't it? But so many have done exactly the same in Formula 1, Tiff, over the years. So many teams that dominate and then all of a sudden it's just either they fall off a cliff or the other teams
others get better.
Find other things,
This is Prema.
I know.
The two most highly rated drivers. Look at 11th and 15th.
Look at McLaren. They haven't won a championship since 1998. Lando and Oscar weren't even
they've
born.
Been coming up. Yeah, but that's not the same car. You're blind. Something my point now. Blurring my point. It's about Formula 2. Can't compare to Formula 1, right? So Formula 1 Academy, we mentioned they were on the calendar.
Whoa. Let's hang on a minute. We haven't even mentioned Bortoletto. You just said, he came second in the race.
That was it.
Bortoleto, well, we got to talk about him. I mean, he was the rookie champion in Formula 3 last year.
So,
This year, he was a rookie champion in
yeah.
Formula 2. Uh, just clearly a phenomenal talent from South America as well. So, well, from Brazil to be more precise. But what's his future going to hold? He's in Formula 1 now?
He's in Sauber, isn't he? So he's there.
But that's what I mean. Is he going to come and blow everybody away?
Well,
Is he
I'm
going
not
to
sure.
be rookie champion in the Sauber?
Not sure he's going to blow away the Sauber. That's for sure. But no, I mean we've mentioned him before. Because he virtually won the Temple. Yeah, and he's huge. He's an Alonso managing team.
That's right.
So he's got good management, and he doesn't shout too much at all. He wears an Ayrton Senna coloured tribute helmet, and
he's got the logo on the top as well. But...
And yes, I mean he's an absolute superstar of the future. He's a Behrman Antonelli sort of level. And we look forward to seeing how he'll get on in Formula One. And it's great to see, 5 young drivers, I think it is now, getting their chance on the top stage.
Absolutely. So, and earlier in the year, we're thinking, God, where's a seat going to come from? And now there's 5 new drivers, young drivers coming through. Yeah. So that's great news. Formula One Academy. So officially, we got an official champion again in Formula One Academy.
Well, there was another race, so they had another pole position for some reason. So it confused me completely.
They cancelled the race.
It was a 1 point. Yeah. It was a 1 point thing. Yeah. But it was interesting when the first 2 races were pretty dull, they all stretched out. But we found out that Abby Pulling had pulled a trick that she used an extra set of tyres in qualifying, because there was their first fastest, second fastest, third fastest lap time that gave the grids for the first, second, and third races. So she used an extra set of new tyres, whereas everybody else kept an extra set for race 3. And we had this bizarre race 3, which was really quite entertaining, because Pulling was on pole for all 3 races. She won the first 2 quite easily, but it's close to the Academy this year. There's quite a good competitive bunch of women that have been battling away. But this last race, Pulling led for a while, but she also had no pace. And Maya Weg, she's Austrian, Austrian maybe? She's a Ferrari Academy. She's been on the top level, but not really shone for years. She's always been in W Series and Formula One Academy. But she managed to finally get past Pulling. It was just defending brilliantly, really everywhere sensible. And Weg pulled away just into the distance. I think she won by about 10 seconds. And we then had an Abby Pulling, all these pulling jokes, can't stop them. Instead of a DRS train, it was a pulling train. I think the entire field was nose to gearbox behind her with like 5 laps to go, because she was going so slow and so defensive. But I mean, she held on to finish second. And again, it brings to what I talked about Formula 3 at Macau. There's no slipstream on these cars. And, I just think you've got to do, if you've got a one-make car, you've got to somehow go to a wind tunnel and give a bit of drag, give a bit of slipstream, because there was no overtaking around great, huge, long Abu Dhabi circuit. They go all the way down the long straight, you're sitting, you think, and occasionally, right towards the end, there was sort of half a car. So they would pull out and Abby would just stay on the left. And so whoever was second, I forgot who was chasing at the end. They'd go down the right-hand side and get level, and then Pulling just says, it's my line now, So unless someone gives you the inside line, if you're clever out front, and she probably slowed down the apex of the hairpin beforehand to make sure back everyone up like a brake test, and then she accelerates. And so nobody overtook. And it was, that lovely turn where Lewis, which is a great, the part of the circuit they changed, where there used to be a left hairpin chicane, which caused quite a bit of overtaking, but also lots of chaos because you dived up the inside and clattered wheels. But to my mind, although it's a fantastic corner and all the drivers love it, and occasionally there's a magnificent round the outside overtake if you've got a big tyre advantage. Otherwise, you can't really do that. It doesn't work. And it should have been a tighter corner at the end of that second long straight. Big, long looping hairpin or something, because then there would be a longer braking zone. Because now, when you have those sort of curve-in designs, they decelerate into the apex. So they're changing down and braking, turning into the first apex. And you just can't get overtaking like that. So if only that, you've got to think about these tracks more. The fact that you've got 18 identical cars and nobody can overtake. And this is a junior formula where you want to see some overtaking. Otherwise the faster driver just can't get anywhere. Dorian Pau, who was spun out, no, she spun someone else out, who caused a crash at turn one, did have Verstappen. She got to the back of the pack. She couldn't overtake anyone. So lessons need to be learned somehow.
Well, you want overtaking as well, don't you? You want them to develop. What I mean. Because
make it more
ultimately that's why they're there. Yeah. Not just for the interest and for the entertainment factor, but you want them to develop as racing drivers and understand. Not saying they're not top racing drivers, but you know what I mean. Just
there were occasions when the ladies were just attacking the chicane because that's the only place to overtake. On one lap, I think about 5 went straight on across the apron. They had to join back in, and they had to work out what position they should be in because they had to go back to where they were before they got off road. They were scattering.
Avoid those penalties. So what happens to Abby next year? Where's she going to go next year?
This is the trouble. This is all wonderful world champion, gold helmet, all the accolades and on the podiums and the Susie Wolf's there and everybody's there and Lewis Hamilton supporting the FIA Academy, F1 Academy. But now she's down to reality. She's in GB3. I mean, last year the champion, as we said, got a Formula Regional drive and Marta Garcia, and she couldn't get in the top 20.
And she dominated.
And she beat Abby. Yes, she dominated Abby last year. So I think Abby's definitely got better this year, and her racecraft was amazing in that last race. The way she held them all up.
Well, throughout the whole year, she's been solid. Yeah. She's been incredible.
But she's now facing a massive GB3 down to sort of Brands Hatch on a rainy day or wherever. So it's going to be the real work starts now for Abby Pulling. If she can get to the top of GB3 and then maybe the Autosport, competition end of the year, she could get voted in to do that, and then things are all possible.
Good.
Just talking about possible for ladies. I congratulate just read Abby Pulling. Jamie Chadwick has signed up to do LMP2. Which is when I saw it at a conversation at Goodwood beginning of the year, I said, that surely has to be where you really think you're going. And she's been signed up to the LMP2 team with, the brain and names. The American Grand Prix driver who's out of Williams with
Logan Sargent.
Logan. So she's paired with Logan in an LMP2 car for the year, which is sponsored by the Hyundai specialist mark. They're going to go LMP1.
Genesis.
2026. Yeah, they call it Genesis. Yeah, so Genesis project.
But they're a foot different in height, aren't they?
How do you do that? Cars? No, big inserts, not a problem.
Okay.
So that's exciting. So she's going to be paired with Logan Sargent and some French kid that I'd never heard of to do LMP2, which is learning the tracks and stuff and endurance racing. And then if she's quick enough, she can get into LMP1 and that could be fantastic. So IndyCar was never on. None of the teams were rushing to stick her in a car. They all knew it was a step just a little bit too big. There's no power steering. And I think she would have...
She certainly didn't embarrass herself, Tiff. I thought she did incredibly well.
But not quite good enough to go to the top table. Whereas a long career, Le Mans, Sebring, Daytona 24 Hours will be magnificent for Jamie. So good luck to her. What
was her? I've lost it on the names now. Her ex. Who was racing with Jamie, the British guy, won it in Indy Lights last year.
Yeah, who's got to drive with Rahal. Him, yeah.
What's his name? I'm so sorry.
You can't throw names at me like that. I've been supporting him on Twitter all year. Fantastic job.
Yeah, I know.
Dominated Indy NXT.
Everyone's shouting at their screens.
I have so many names.
These old men can't even remember the names. One syllable surname, not King. One syllable.
You're going to kill me.
Google it now. Where we go next? Formula E.
Formula E. You're going to kill me. You Google. You're quicker. I'll start the Formula E story while you find out. Look at now. Formula E. E was back. E is starting its new season. And I watched it. I enjoyed it. It was entertaining, but not for any normal motor racing reasons at all. Because they made them look better. They got a new front wing, which didn't look like a flat pack cardboard thing that they just built on angles, which looked ridiculous. And they look smart. They've added four-wheel drive, which is why they're now professing they're faster than 62 than a Grand Prix car. And they can use this off the line when they start. So they use them now to the turn one. And then they use them when they have attack mode. Now, we've taken the mickey out of attack mode before because you go offline to pick up the attack mode, going around the corners, which loses you 2 places. And then with the attack mode, you gain 2 places back. And so you all end up where you started from in the first place. Quite often you lose more than you gain. And it was almost something that the drivers wanted to get rid of as soon as they could. It just didn't work. So it was a bit of a joke to call it attack mode and then not really allow any tacking. So it was all more down to battery saving and power saving who won the races. But they've now introduced 4-wheel drive and added that to the attack mode only. And they were overtaking like you cannot believe. It was went to the other extreme. So now they've got too much attack mode. What was it on Nick Cassidy when he was one of the early ones to take it? I think he went from P8 to P1 in 2 laps. They were just coming out with the 4-wheel drive traction and just accelerating past 2 or 3 cars. And so people were just overtaking willy-nilly. You couldn't follow the race. You had no idea who was attacking and who was. Well, you did know who was attacking because of the light up by the drivers. But some, you have 8 minutes. You can take 2 minutes and 6 minutes or 4 minutes and 4 minutes. You have to go in twice. But it was all ridiculous. In the end, the winner was the person who started last, which was Mitch Evans. Fantastic drive. The second place was in the Jaguar. So with Jaguar, their new logo on the wing, Jaguar new logo wins first time out in Sao Paulo, tight street circuit. Felix da Costa finished second in his Porsche. His Porsche teammate Pascal Wehrlein ended up on his roof. Thanks to this. It's a very tight circuit in Sao Paulo. They were trying to go sort of 2 wide, 3 wide round hairpins into another corner. They're banging front wheels. They lose their steering arms. And Wehrlein ended up on his roof, having had a wheel stuck inside his too. Our young British Taylor Barnard, who's in McLaren now, finished 3rd from 17th on the grid. It didn't matter where he started. And he beat Sam Bird, which probably his teammate Sam Bird. But I don't know, I watched it and sort of it was entertaining, but you were people going by looking like they were other people going into the pits. And
I think it seems a lot better this year.
Well, yes. I mean, it's just strategy's going to be, and I think who was out front? I don't know what you've done for in the end. Nissan driver. You see names. Why didn't I write all the names down? Rowling, not Rowling.
Anyway.
Speaking. Roland. So Roland was leading. He looked like he'd got it sussed. He'd taken his last 6 seconds. He'd overtaken the Porsches, was pulling out a lead, and he probably would have won it. But he might have taken the lead under a yellow flag. I think that was the infringement, or even a red flag. They had a red flag for Dennis's car that turned red and was nearly exploding. But where else? Anyway, when the red flag came out, went to a safety car. He'd had 2 of his 6 seconds of power, which is now so powerful. So if you take that attack mode and then there's a safety car, you can't use it. So there's going to be some huge luck of the draws that you've just taken your power mode. So when to take this new attack mode is going to become the be all and end all of who wins and loses these races. So it's going to be a huge tactical strategic battle. They'll probably get used to it. Whether on the faster, more open circuits is going to be as effective, I don't know. Probably be more effective. But and I mustn't forget to add that the new what's it called? Power mode. The one team I've written it down somewhere. Pit Boost. Pit Boost is on its way to add to this new 4-wheel drive attack mode. They're now at weekends where there's a double header. One of the races they're going to introduce for the first time this refueling. They're going to have a 10% read, a 600 kilowatt charger is going to be shoved in for 30 seconds, and then you're back. That's going to break all the field into half. So each team,
you're not going to know who's doing what.
You're not allowed to. Yeah, I know. So it'll be so confused.
Yeah, they're going to rely on safety cars. All that malarkey is going to come into it. So anyone can win.
You can't pit both cars at the same time. You can have one pit per team. So if there's 2 teammates running, first and second, one of you has to go in first. And I don't know. I think that's Jeddah in February. We've got Mexico next, which is a normal race, and then in February we have the first pit boost. So,
but we may be at Mexico actually. So
I know they say
Our new motorsport thing.
They say that they're not appealing to petrol heads like us. They say that they're not appealing to traditional fans. They're looking for a new fan base, and hopefully they'll find one. Because I think for a real, true racing fan, it's just all a bit crazy.
But you just said true racing fans don't go and watch Formula 2 or Formula 3 or Supercar.
No,
yeah.
but the true racing fans aren't at Grand Prix anymore because they can't afford to go.
That's true as well.
So the real true old-fashioned racing fan is they probably go to British Touring Car weekend, which is packed out. That's where that's a great weekend. Or British GT gets good crowds.
Motorbikes now, my goodness, motorbikes. So action-packed. Jamie Chadwick's teammate was, of course,
Fisher.
Louis Foster.
Louis, I'm sorry, Louis.
How do we forget that? Champion.
Because I'm thinking of the next name, and another question comes out of your small head into my small head, and it just goes wrong. So there we have it. Formula
That was it.
I mean, if you had a few beers at lunchtime and it's on a Sunday at tea time, it's worth watching, just for a bit of a laugh. But I don't know
what's happening next week.
Well, it's all testing time, so it's a testing week. In fact, testing today was Carlos Sainz got an extra 2 hours because Williams had a film day that they hadn't used up. So they were out this afternoon at Abu Dhabi on his own. No times given. I don't know what he was doing. But so Sainz had his first Williams. Then tomorrow, everyone's out. This sort of rookie test day. And not all rookies. You have to have one regular driver and one new driver. So I haven't written the full list, but people getting their chance in the Formula 1 car. Paul Aron, who led the Formula 2 championship for a long time, won in Q8 his first win, a very talented Estonian. He gets out in an Alpine. Hulk and Bortoletto are both out in a Sauber for the first time. Luke Brown is out in the Williams, along with Sainz tomorrow. So Luke Brown, good for him. He's doing Formula 2 again this year. Jack Crawford, the American, who probably wants to impress Cadillac. He's out in an Aston Martin. We've got Haas, we've got Ocon out on Haas for the first time. Pato O'Ward's in a McLaren, the IndyCar driver. That'd be interesting to see how he gets on.
Yeah.
Also another Cadillac man, maybe. Unless there's no room in McLaren for about 3 or 4 years unless someone falls out with the team, just really. Yuki and Hadjar are both out in the Red Bull. That'd be an interesting one to keep the lap times on. Whereas Ollie Behrman and Kimi Antonelli are heading off to the Super Formula. They're all going over to Suzuka. This is what Formula One's like now. So they can learn the circuit for next year in a high-speed car. They're flying Ollie Behrman and 2 different teams. They're sending their drivers out.
You said to me, why is Jack doing Abu Dhabi? That's exactly why he's there, to learn what it's like.
Yeah, but he could be learning it today, testing, couldn't he? I think he was he was in it last year. I'm pretty sure that Doohan was in a Formula 1 car at Abu Dhabi at the end of last year.
And Formula 2 is not that far off either. Probably 6 seconds, I guess.
Yeah. And interesting, also, along with Ollie Behrman and Kimi Antonelli, a Thruxton racing instructor by the name of James Headley has also got himself a drive out in the test, which is fascinating to see.
Amazing.
James, a lot of talent, won GB3, never had enough money to ever really have a consistent season. He seems to end up with about 3 teams that will give him another 2 rides for Tuppence Halfpenny. Needs money, but he's managed to get a test. Never been around Suzuka before. So hopefully, he's got a couple of days, so hopefully he'll take it easy early on. So
I can recommend a really good karaoke bar near Suzuka. If you need it, James, give us a shout.
Might need it after the test. He doesn't want it.
When will we? That's true. When will we see Lewis Hamilton in red?
Well, not till next year because they haven't allowed him, have they,
Barcelona?
to do a Ferrari test. So it'll be the Barcelona test. When is that? January, February?
Barcelona or Bahrain? What?
Oh, it's Bahrain now, isn't it? They moved it. It's not Barcelona anymore, is it? It's Bahrain.
It is Bahrain, yeah. There we go.
An interesting weekend. A nice end to the season with lots of smiles and not
especially
too much
in the Mercedes garage with Lewis. There was lots of tears and smiles. Bono and the whole team. So congratulations to them.
Carlos.
And Carlos, yeah.
I didn't watch the afters. Was a party in Ferrari for Carlos as well.
Probably.
He's pretty much matched Leclerc for the rest of this year, hasn't he? I mean, Leclerc still seems to have that little qualifying extra sometimes. But
tell
Carlos
me, why do they announce their card so early in the season? Why don't they wait until the end of the season and then say, this is what we're doing? Because I guarantee lots of the drivers would have been different. Lewis, would he have gone to Ferrari, or would he thought
Maybe
actually
not.
Mercedes are so close now, and I love this team. Carlos, would Ferrari got rid of him? But for anybody,
Checo. I mean, Horner's admitted, maybe we gave him 2 more years, a bit too early, but we thought it would inspire him. That's the reason they said they gave Carlos, Checo, 2 more year contract, because they thought that would perk him up and he'd suddenly be much faster because he was now loved and wanted. Didn't work, did it?
I wish somebody would love and want me. On that note, thanks for joining. We'll see you next week.
I love you, Paul.
Thanks, mate.
See you next week. Cheers.